But first, today we got some good news out of New South Wales. Large numbers of people had presented to undergo voluntary testing, over 44,000 in fact, a record, and there were only 8 new cases of community transmission up to 8 p.m. last night, down from 30 in the 24 hours prior to that. Premier Berejiklian sounded a note of cautious optimism about this today.
And I feel so proud and deeply grateful that people have responded, not just in the Northern Beaches community, but throughout Sydney and throughout all of New South Wales. And that's exactly what we want and what we need to see continue. But of course, what remains our concern is that even though the case numbers are relatively low compared to what we've experienced in previous days, the number of venues that are impacted, it grows. Because when you have people with the virus who've attended venues outside of the Northern Beaches community, it always increases our concern.
But as you heard here last night from Professor Peter Collignon, it is still possible that the number may yet spike over the next few days due to the incubation period. But it is good news for Sydney-siders and also for the rest of the country. What a contrast the speed and efficiency of that New South Wales contact tracing operation provides with the mess uncovered by the Coate inquiry into the dysfunctional response to hotel quarantine breaches in Victoria. Yet there are no fanatics swooning about standing with Gladys on Twitter while pouring putrid abuse on female journalists who dare question their man Dan. One day, someone should do a PhD thesis on the correlation between those who stand with Dan while simultaneously taking a knee with the Black Lives Matter movement. I imagine that would be a very difficult manoeuvre to perform. And how many wanted open borders, porous borders for people smugglers, but now embrace hard border closures inside Australia and the rights of states? That's a strange juxtaposition if you've followed politics for as long as I have. It's hard to keep up with it all. Despite performing better than any of her counterparts, Gladys Berejiklian is now out in the cold. Hard border closures are in place, preventing passage between New South Wales and every other state and territory. Deputy Premier John Barilaro address this matter today.
We didn't lock down the border of Victoria until there was 140 to 180 cases a day. Here we have a knee-jerk reaction again on 15. And then, of course, Queensland closing its border with 15 cases yesterday. Knee-jerk reactions from premiers, that lots of running commentary. But I'll tell you what, I back in our premier, Dr Kerry Chant, our health system, because it is the gold standard.
Thousands across the country have had their Christmas plans disrupted, but there will be enormous effects on the tourist industry, especially in Queensland. Barriers have been repositioned on the Queensland-New South Wales border, with some travellers being turned around or asked to quarantine for 14 days. Anna Rawlings has more.
A mad rush to enter Queensland turned into a slow crawl at 6 a.m. as the Palaszczuk government reintroduced hard border measures for New South Wales travellers.
There are absolutely people who try and game the system. They're being selfish. They're potentially putting the Queensland community at risk.
People from the Northern Beaches and Greater Sydney must quarantine for 14 days. Already 115 people have tried to enter the Sunshine State illegally.
And this is the reason we've had to go to a hard border posture, because the only way we can give any level of assurance of keeping people out who shouldn't be in our state is to obviously have a high level of scrutiny.
One woman from Greater Sydney lied to police at multiple checkpoints. She's been hit with a $4,000 fine. We can't expect to see these barricades taken down anytime soon. The Queensland Premier and Health Minister saying the decision won't be revised until at least January 8. Then the government will want to see 28 days with no evidence of linked cases to any of the New South Wales hotspots. Anna Rawlings, Sky News.
Now, this should be the peak season for the Gold and Sunshine Coasts, and I know there are thousands of southerners who wish to get away just for a Queensland break and recharge their batteries after a pretty tough year. All of you, wherever you live, are paying the taxes that fund the income support that is keeping many businesses afloat in these states, hiding behind hard border closures. A handful of parochial state premiers continue to game the system. playing tough on border closures while the Commonwealth subsidises the businesses that their actions are placing in jeopardy. And when I speak of your taxes, I'm talking about your money.